welcome everybody and what is up to another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Mike Guerrero, just across from me as we break down everything Philadelphia Union from the Montreal game last week to this week, tomorrow night's game against the San Jose Earthquakes, where an important factor, Jamiro Monteiro, will not be playing. But we've got so much to discuss. It has been an action-packed week, and as you guys might see from Mike's t-shirt, there might be there might be a player that we might be discussing that will be of significance or importance to the game this weekend. But Mike, before we get into things, do you want to take us away with the sort of adverts and advertising for the podcast?
Yes. Yes, I do. Give me 1 second. Pull it up. I forgot. I took my glasses off and I remembered I was old, so I put them back on. So we got Manscaped 20% off plus free shipping with code AATBirds at manscaped.com. We have OddsJam, the number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. They use an arbitrage calculator and more, so you never lose a bet again. Sign up at oddsjam.com. Check out Statement Games at statementgames.com for free prize or fun way for fantasy sports entertainment. It's free to sign up at and then La Terrain watches. LaTerrain.com. Use AATBirds for the discount code. It's a great website. They're one of our more newer sponsors. And then lastly, we have the AAT Sports Network shop. You can get AATSportsNetwork.com/shop for all of our gear, for all the shows, shirts, mugs, cups, etc. But Dave, without further ado, take it away.
Obviously, we'll kick off the show. Actually, going a week, obviously behind of what we were. Well, we are now. Obviously, last Saturday evening, the Union travelled a cup across the border to Montreal, and they pulled off a shot. I will say it was a shock. I think in terms of the fact the Union haven't won. Apart from Cincinnati, the Union hadn't won a road game in 10 months. They went to Montreal and won 2-1, thanks to literally 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes. It could have been a lot different, but obviously we'll start off with the first half, and it was quite uneventful, really. Obviously, Mike, you obviously didn't get to watch the game live, but obviously you've seen it back. But it was quite an uneventful half, apart from perhaps 2 or 3 chances where obviously Carranza had one and Montreal had a couple, including the goal. How did you feel the first half went, especially in the lead up to the goal, where obviously it was quite an unlucky deflection for Nathan Harriel?
So, for one, the turf was awful, and like watching that field at all. I didn't look, even on camera, it didn't look good. But Harriel, you mentioned his name, so I'll kind of segue with that. For one, I think what surprised a lot of us was the fact that Olivier Mbaizo was not on the starting 11. I think Jim Curtin was unsatisfied with his error that he saw against Minnesota the week prior. And listen, we have seen coaches not hold players accountable across multiple leagues, across multiple teams. It happens all the time. Once you're a starter, it's hard for you to kind of get benched. Jim, I guess, saw enough and said, I'm making Olivier accountable and I'm holding this team to a high standard. And he put Nathan in there in their first road match of the year against a team that honestly is, it's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So I was impressed that Curtin pulled the trigger, and I was very impressed with Nathan. I thought he played great. I thought the first half he got settled into it really well. The goal, yeah, it's a fluke goal. I'm not going to blame him for putting his foot there and having a tip. Not his fault at all, in my opinion. But he looked confident. I thought he looked dangerous as well at times offensively. He pressed his man well and even took the ball back on a few occasions. So I was really impressed with him. And honestly, I don't see how you put Olivier back out there against San Jose, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But how about your thoughts, Dave?
I mean, the first half, it was, leading up to the goal, I thought it's been pretty uneventful half. Neither team's really done much to, assert the dominance. I mean, again, as you mentioned, the pitch, the turf was atrocious. I don't know why they're playing on that sort of turf at that high of a level of the game. But it was uneventful. You could see the pitch was causing problems to both teams. You sort of see the Union giving the ball away, and then Montreal were like, okay, we've got a great opportunity here. Get the ball at their feet, or the ball comes to them. Horrible bounce, and then they're back to square one. That the Union are able to get bodies back. And I mean, again, you said Nathan put himself about well in the first half. It's not like he really. I think they were definitely trying to utilize or attack that right hand side due to Nathan's inexperience. It's not
they were.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, it's not a knock upon Nathan. It's the fact he's 19, 20 years old. He's an inexperienced fullback, and the fact that that's sort of the obvious thing you're going to do. It's not like it's not like he's world class. 18, 19-year-old that's already played for a year and a half, 2 years, and has that experience. He's making probably his fifth or sixth start in the MLS. So again, there's no surprise there. But again, I thought it was unlucky deflections, not much
Yeah.
that Andre could have done with the deflection, because then the ball looped up so high. It was sort of like watching the game live. I was like, okay, that ball's just going over the crossbar, and it just sort of
I
gone
thought so too.
whoop.
Yeah.
It's just like ballooned all the way up. You thought, okay, that's going over, and it's just sort of dropped into that bottom corner where Andre Blake was sort of looking at it like, okay, that's just gone, and it's just somehow dropped in. But I think then you obviously flip over to the second half, and again, it's quite weird because I have to watch the Union games sometimes via gambling streaming. So they have like streamed the MLS games on the gambling sites. So I had to watch the game through via that. And I believe, I'm not going to 1,000% say it was, but I believe I had the Montreal sort of like stream of it. So I had their commentators.
Oh
So again,
gosh.
when the second goal happened, again, the second goal happens and it goes to VAR. Before I move into the commentators, would you believe it was fair to have given a foul, or do you think that the referee perhaps should have let things ride out?
I I thought it was a bit. I mean, I thought clearly it was a foul. Personally, I see why they called back. I was surprised that they did, because
Yeah,
personally, we've seen the Union get stung by the VAR by VAR before. I mean, Elliott saw it right away. He was, as soon as that ball went in, he's like, no, 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 like, there was a foul, there was a foul. So credit to
yeah.
him for seeing that. Maybe that helped, spark the whole thing. But I was surprised. I actually thought they should have gotten it, and it just kind of like a bad turn of events for them. Really, if they would have definitely put the game away at that point.
I think again, I agree with that. I think that goal was the entire sequence around that goal, from it going in to being disallowed, I think just completely turned the complexion of the game. It gave the
Yes.
Union that the energy boost, like, okay, we're still in this game, we can still get something out of this. Whereas Montreal are probably in their heads thinking, oh, for God's sake, how is this only one? We literally had the game dead and buried and we're back level.
Yeah.
And again, I think it was a foul. I think anywhere else, I mean, if it leads to anything else, I believe it would be a free kick. I think if it
Hmm.
happens inside the penalty area, it's probably a penalty. If it's anywhere on the pitch, it's probably a free kick. I thought Paul, the referee, didn't notice it upon like first watch, considering it was right in front of him. But listen to the
Yeah.
Montreal stream; they were absolutely disgusted, saying like, "Oh, it's never a free kick. It's a disgrace that this has been given as a free kick. Absolutely no chance." I was like, "Well, anywhere else on the pitch, and if in fact flip the teams and the Union score from that sort of situation,
Yeah.
they'd probably be complaining
Of
it was a
course.
free kick." Because
Exactly.
it clearly, I
It's
mean, I was going to
yeah.
say,
Go
it's
ahead.
always
Go
just
ahead.
contentious ones where you sit there and go, for God's sake, ref, come on, you can't give that. Because the ball was going away from Kwanzaa. But again, it's sort of there's one of those free kicks. He takes them out as a free kick.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think they weren't happy. But then again, fast forward, didn't have to fast forward. 30 seconds later, a bit of pinball inside the Montreal penalty area. And probably the most unlikely of goal scorers, I think, from that attacking six from
Yeah.
midfield and attack. Ali Bedoya with a lovely curling finesse finish with left foot into the bottom corner first time.
Didn't he have the same style of goal in the MLS's back tournament? I could have sworn that when in one of the first early rounds, he had hit
Uh,
a left-footed shot in the same manner. Somebody can remind me or remembers
only
that
game I can think
Ali
of
Bad.
is also only game I can
Yeah, go.
think of is a DC United game. I think was that the last group stage game.
I don't remember. I don't remember what it was, but I remember he had a goal in that tournament. I remember he went to the microphone and started like yelling about something, and I could have sworn it was very similar. But either way, I mean, so guys that gets taken down, I couldn't even tell if that was a foul or not. Personally, I don't
No,
think it probably was. I would have wished Daniel would have gotten up sooner, personally, but that's besides the point. I mean, Ali puts himself in position, and it's a perfect strike. I mean, it's not a powerful strike, but it's good enough to get into the right spot. It's all about placement for Ali in that
no,
position,
yeah,
and I thought it was. I mean, it's just a game changer. Of course, you have such
oh
a
yeah,
momentum shift, in that moment. So credit for Bedoya to put it in the right
no,
spot. I
oh
mean,
no,
he's
absolutely,
that's why he's the captain. He steps up. I thought he
yeah.
had a good game. Overall, he had a good
I
game.
think no, I agree with that. I think he started
Yeah,
the season well. In fact, it might have been the NYCFC game actually he scored that goal. I was looking at the sort of the
I think you're right.
group stage games now, but again, obviously going
Mhm.
back to the goal, I think he did really well to keep control of that ball, because you see so many
Yes.
times that people get a hold of that ball and they miss kick it, or they, if you know what I mean, they miss kick it, or they get too much power on it and they sky the ball over. He did perfectly to get
Yeah.
the right amount of control and power into it to be able to direct it into that bottom corner to take it away from the goalkeeper. And then we just literally you just literally have to watch the game, because a matter of probably like 45, 50 seconds later, the Union were back inside Montreal territory and finishing off another attack, but this time a much more a cleaner attack, if you know what I mean, a nicer goal. I mean,
It
Julian
was. I
Carranza.
thought it was a beautiful goal. Yeah. No,
I'm
I
sorry,
did.
Julian.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say,
No. No. Mhm.
Sorry, the joys of live stream.
Yeah.
Um, uh, No, but obviously Julian Carranza does great to bring that ball on, bring
Yes.
that ball down under his control with its chest on the move. Because you see a lot of times some players that comes on their chest, sometimes it goes away from them. But he did brilliantly to bring that into a stride, and I think that's
Mhm.
I mean sort of plays like that and control like that in positive areas is something that Union fans should be excited for and should be excited to see from a player like Julian Carranza when
Mhm.
obviously moving forward and when he plays a more prominent role in this team. Obviously, he's suspended. We'll discuss that in a second. But to
Mhm.
be able to bring that under control, bring that into his path, into the direction where he wanted the ball, and then to play a lovely ball across perfectly for Gaz Douglas to slot into that bottom corner again, I think that was a fantastic finish. And again, it gave us a little sneak peek of the sort of technical footballer that Julian Carranza is.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. So, I mean, for one, it was, I believe, Kai Wagner who set up the pass to Julian, and well placed. I mean, the trap and control of it was excellent. The
Yeah,
pass was excellent, but then for me, I really was impressed by Daniel in that moment because you see it time and time again. You get a very difficult ball in that very tight spot, which it was. It was a very tight lane that he was in, and you've
yeah,
seen it sometimes that the first touch is too hard. The first touch from Daniel was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. He gets it on the right foot and boom, and puts it in the back of the net. Um, I believe it was the left foot, whatever it was. But it was just a really well done, and it was absolutely the nail in the coffin for Montreal because at that
yeah,
point, well, before the red card, but at that point you're thinking like we had the game and now we lost the game, and the Union are flying high right there. But yeah, to your point, the first match against Minnesota, as Jim Curtin alluded to, was very choppy, very up and down, didn't have a really good flow to it. Julian really couldn't get involved. This
yeah,
game, it was a bit better overall, minus the turf, but it was good to see him settle into the team and contribute in such an important way. And it wasn't just a fluke goal; it was something that was actually done by his talent and his skill set. It wasn't just like the Montreal goal, where it was like an own goal basically into
yeah,
the back of the net. So for his confidence, for Daniel's confidence, and even for Ali's confidence, if you want to go back to the previous goal. You saw last year after the NYCFC header that he had from Kai off Kai's right foot in the press conference after the game, he's so emotional. He's saying this was such an emotional goal for me. I needed this goal because he had gone so long into the year without scoring.
yeah,
And I'm sure he sees us and everybody else on Twitter saying Ali's washed up, Ali's getting old.
yeah,
So for these three players, Julian, Daniel, and Ali, who have question marks entering the season, to have this run of 2 minutes, 3 minutes is huge for their confidence, in my opinion. So
yeah.
I was just elated for all three of them.
Absolutely, and I think again it speaks volumes to sort of player Ali Bedoya is. He's timeless in a sense. I mean, again, I think rightfully so. Last year there were callings for him to be dropped, him not to be a first team player because again he had a really poor drawn like the middle between like sort of like the game against Atlanta to the game against the first game against Club America. That stretch of
Mhm.
games the Union played during the summer months, he was really poor. He wasn't very good, and I sort of feel like the summer heat maybe or the intensity, the heat, and the humidity of obviously of America during the summer is obviously a lot different in comparison to a lot of countries. I think he struggled with it, and I
Yeah.
think we saw him get not a lot better, but I think he got considerably better towards the end of the season. He looked like more like the Ali Bedoya that we'd seen in the MLS Back Cup,
Mhm.
the Ali Bedoya that we'd somewhat seen during the start of the season. And I think he started this year very well as well in comparison to how we saw him at times last year. Jim made a very big statement leading up to the season saying Joe Ali's come back as probably arguably our fittest player. He looks,
That's
you know,
great. Yeah.
that's what I mean. He's come back. He's making these statements that
Mhm.
he's putting his neck on the line for Ali. It's obvious the respect they both have for each other. They both obviously have great doing. He obviously rates Ali Bedoya so highly amongst the team, and I
Mhm.
could easily see him becoming the Union coach when he retires or having some involvement with the franchise, which I think would
Yeah.
be fantastic. Considering if he was to step right into a role, he'd know the players in the club already. But I think again, obviously, that could be 2 years down the line for all we know. Because again, he looks ageless, looks timeless at the moment, and I'm happy for him to have been able to step up and get such a big goal. And hopefully, again, as you said, for Julian Daniel again, who's received a lot of criticism, he showed up with. And again, he's a player again towards the back end of last year once he became more acclimatized to the league, the climate of the MLS and America, he looked like a much better player, and he took those responsibilities on Saturday. He scored a very good goal, and again, it's positive. It's a positive look for the Union heading forward, and the fact that, do you know what, they can be faced with adversity. They can go a goal down. They can have an edgy moment like an offside goal, and they can bounce back and they can quick fire hit you for a 1-2 punch. And I think that's a
Mhm.
great sort of thing to look at heading forward.
Yeah, no, I think so. Going to your statement about Curtin and what he said about Ali, and all coaches will promote their players and praise their players, but as I've said before, Curtin is not typically like to make um, extreme, I guess, compliments without any sort of warrant behind it. Like there's some meaning behind it. Same thing what he said with McGlynn comparing him to Harris. If Jim is saying that Ali is in his best shape of his of the team or whatever it might be, take it for the word and believe it, because I mean we see it on the field right now. Bedoya against Montreal was alley that we remembered before. And if he is playing great, and if he's healthy, and if he's able to be at an elite fitness, then I mean the Union really are dangerous, because that was the problem last year, was just that right side and how slow it was, and Olivier not being really the best overall. So I'm excited if Curtin's high on Bedoya this year, because we need him
Yeah,
desperately for this team to really be a contender, unless you're going to a younger player to replace him.
yeah.
Um,
I think
yeah, go ahead.
so. I think perhaps the rise of prompt like the sort of the rise of players like Patrick Harrison, Jack McGlynn, and Quinn Sullivan, especially, perhaps giving them sort of new life as well, more like
Sure.
determination to say like, look, these young bucks, these young kids, they're not as good as me. This is my role. This is my team. I'm the captain of this team.
Yeah.
Great, their time, they can have their time in 2-3 years time, but right now I'm still here to lead
Mhm.
this team. I'm still here to be sort of the focal point. I'm the leader of this team. I'm going to be in that starting 11 no matter what it takes. I don't care if everyone's calling for their names. I am the guy, and I think that has perhaps inspired him, not in the sense of being selfish and like, oh, these guys don't deserve it, but more in retrospect of like, oh, like, listen, I believe that I'm the captain of this team. I can. This is, do you know what I mean? Like more of a motivational point as opposed to in spite of, these are just kids. They shouldn't be here. More of, do you know what? I'm going to show that I can do this, and that the fans should be calling for my name as much as they should be calling for these young guys who have made such an impression.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Jason Kelsey for the Eagles, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's someone you think, oh, he's washed up, he's retired, he gets back into good shape and stays healthy and is able to contribute at a high level. So, I mean, it's great. I love Bedoy's the best captain in Philly for sure, and I'm excited for him. But in terms of something to happen in the second half, Dave, and I'll let you take off with your thoughts on this. So, Mikael Ua makes his debut, right? And we also saw Olivier come in with the Carranza red card. What are your thoughts on that second half, and how all that transpired?
Well, I mean, again, you're watching the game, you think, look, awesome, all eyes on. We're potentially seeing the Union strike force for the next 2-3 years, or
Yeah.
the main ones next 2-3 years. Because for the sounds of it, Corey, from as we've seen over the last 2-3-4 years, Corey Burke, no matter no matter what, he will find a way to be on this team.
That's true.
But but in terms of like the starting two,
Yeah.
you thought, okay, this is just the beginning. I can't wait to see these guys begin to form their partnership. Where,
Mhm.
but I won't say we're on top, because I think the commentators during the game seemed to convince the Union with the team on top. I mean, the game was pretty like level at that point. I think the Union sort of burst of attack and trying to score sort of died down a bit. Montreal had sort of weathered the storm a bit after the second goal. But you thought, okay, this is it. I mean, this could be a great time for those two to sort of capitalize on a team that's chasing the game. We can try and catch them out with runs and behind, and we saw that from UR after the red card. I mean, Julian had been booked beforehand. I thought it was a bit of a harsh first yellow card,
Yeah.
but the second one, and then to book in so shortly afterwards again, I thought it was quite harsh. But I think both were fouls. I think when you're on a yellow card, from a managerial perspective, you can't. Perhaps he should have realised that maybe he should have passed on the message to sort of be a bit more um, passive. But again, at that point as well, as a player, you somewhat know you're walking a very tight rope. To commit fouls around that sort of area of the pitch, you're always walking a fine line, and it was a frustrating thing to see. But I mean,
Hmm.
again, it's something we haven't really seen from the Union strikers in recent years. They're willing to get involved. They're willing to get stuck in. They're willing to put their foot in, win the ball, and try and help us get high at the pitch. I
Yep.
mean, we didn't always see it from Cash, but we haven't seen it always from Corey or Sergio. I mean, if Well, we've seen it from Sergio, but Sergio somewhat takes away the convincingness of what he does because he then flops down on the floor acting like
That's
he's been
true.
shot. And it's sort of like, well, he's still got the ball, Sergio. So I don't know what he's done to you to make you do that. But I think it's just, it was refreshing, but it was frustrating as well because as a player, you need to know where the line is and you need to not to commit stupid fouls.
Mhm.
Again, he'll only learn from that. I think Jim knows that he'll only learn from that. But I think from your perspective, how did you view the red card? Because I think at that point in the match, it was a very key point because that was a period where the Union could have certainly turned the heat up a bit and could have tried to kill the game off.
Okay, so I guess I think the big picture here, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked that it happened. Not that I agree with it happening, but I think I like that they are tested that way early. You
Yeah,
have yourself, yes, you're leading, but you're also now down a man. So it's good to see that they were able to hold it together, barely. And I'll talk about Olivier later on when we get to him. Um, but also, if you're going to be missing one player, I do prefer to have it against someone like San Jose. Not that I'm saying that San Jose can come in here and beat us or
no,
draw with us, but if you're looking for an opponent that's more inferior overall, you would rather have him be out for San Jose than, whatever it might be, Montreal, for example, right?
yeah,
So I am happy that it happened when it happened. The downside was for me is that I wanted to see Mikael have a full, team around him to see what he could do. And even with them being down a man, he still looked dangerous. I mean, he almost had a goal with 5 minutes onto the field, and then he almost had a second chance later on. I thought he could have maybe cut it back to I think it was Quinn or whoever it was running
yeah.
down
It
the left
was
side of the
Quinn
field.
Sullivan. Yeah, yeah,
Quinn Sullivan. Yeah, sure, maybe he could have done it, but you know what? Honestly, take a shot. I love it. Take a shot. You're there, make an impact, maybe gets a goal. And that's what we want our striker, who we paid a lot of money for, to do, to
yeah.
go out there and score and try his best to score. So, um, I believe that need to be battle tested. I saw it last year with the Union. So if you're going to get battle tested, do it early on the season. I thought it was a good opportunity to see what they could do. And hey,
Yeah.
listen, they finished that game out and went home with 3 points.
No, see. I think again relating to McCann, I think the first chance to me was more frustrating than the second one. I think he should have probably squared it to Quinn because the
Yeah,
play was there. Quinn basically had an open goal for you to pass it. But I think in that sort of situation, you're making your debut, you want to make a bang, you want to score. I think I can understand that from a striker's perspective. But the first chance, you have to shoot across the goalkeeper. You have to shoot across the goalkeeper from the angle you're at. You have your best chance of scoring from shooting across the goalkeeper, and he chose to go towards the near post. That was probably the most frustrating for me because he hit the side netting, didn't test the goalkeeper, he didn't
yeah,
force a save where if the keeper's parrying it back out, it could go straight back into McHale's feet, and you think you could have another chance. He doesn't parry it out into another direction to the path of a Union player or a dangerous position, or even puts out for a corner. Just the fact he hit the side netting was very frustrating, I think, but again, that was what frustrated me because I think he has to shoot across the goalkeeper there. You have to force the keeper into a save.
yeah,
And again, you're probably more likely to score from that sort of angle from where you were. But I think it was positive to see that he was able to
yeah.
beat their offside trap, beat a high line as well, use his pace to get beyond the high line. You saw as soon as he got beyond their strike defenders, he was in.
Mhm.
No one was catching him up. And I think that's probably what was most exciting. I think, okay, we can play balls over the top if we need to.
Yeah.
Um, but I think again, obviously, the Union managed to close the game out. Obviously, Jim changed it to a back five, and Olivia came on at right wing back for a bit, and again they closed the game out. They didn't really look too troubled. Gave away perhaps one or two decent chances, but it was what you'd expect to happen against 10 men. Well, with
Yeah.
10 men against a team on top. But again, they closed the game out. They looked defensively solid for the most part, and with 10 men as well. So I think you'll take 3 points and move on to what will be a difficult yet interesting and perhaps high scoring fixture and affair against San Jose tomorrow.
Yeah. So, a couple things to touch on right there. I know when I was watching the game on the telecast for, I think it was, PHL 17, I know Jim announced 4-4-1 when it went to 10 men. Now, whether they kept in that or not, I couldn't really tell 100%. I know there was some speculation online, like you said, the different formation. But I know when I saw Jim say 4-4-1, that's what he went with when they went down to 10 men. But
Yeah,
so you watch players' highlights all the time, right? And you get excited for them to come in. And you say, okay, great, he's got this, he got that, whatever. Oh my god, I didn't realize how fast he was. He's really got some
yeah,
speed. He can really get behind a line. That right there, him with Sergio or even with Burke, just is so exciting because we missed that from Casper. Casper would have gotten beat by the to the ball. Let's be frank. He would have had the same opportunity, and just either the keeper came out and beat him, or whoever would have beat him to the ball. So having somebody that can just put the jets on and take off is really, really exciting. Yeah, could he have done it better on the shot? Sure, but regardless, if you're going to just get a teaser for next week or tomorrow, rather, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
Olivier comes on again. We see another mental lapse from Olivier, in my opinion.
Mm.
So there was a header that was towards the box. I think it was like the 80th minute. It was closer towards that minute. So obviously Harriel's behind him and he's in front of Harriel, and the ball gets crossed into the box, and Nathan is watching his man towards the left front of him. And the ball goes over Nathan's head, gets a clear header to Blake. Thankfully, it's wide left. And you can see Nathan saying like, to Olivier, like, come in. What? And you see Olivier's watching, and then he sees his man gets beat, and he kind of goes too late to react.
Uh,
I personally, I mean, you might disagree, which is fine. I want to hear your opinion on it. For me, it seemed as if he was ball watching. It seemed as if he lost his man, which is why Nathan reacted the way he did. But it was just coincidentally another moment where on his side of the field, there was a clear shot at goal. And imagine if that goes into the back of the net, the grief he's going to get as a result. I just don't see him seeing the field next week as a result. And I hope that's the case because I really like what I've seen so far from Nathan in the past season and this past year so far.
I mean, it's a difficult one because again, I think if it was more of a midfielder making the run or like a wing back making the run, he should be picking it up. But it's the fact it's a centre back making the run in from so deep in. I think it's one of those last second things where you don't notice it until it's come into the box and the ball's been played. It's difficult. I think it's a difficult one. Again, it was easy to say, oh, for God's sake, Mbaizo needs to be watching that. Maybe you should be watching out for the late run. But again, I think the last thing you probably expect to see when you're in those sort of situations is a guy playing the back three, then making the delayed run over the potentially over half of the pit, over half of your half to get all the way into that box. I think it was possibly an unlucky one. Again, it's probably one of those things, but I think again, Olivier is probably one of the easier players to scapegoat for fans. I think it was a frustrating. Again, it was a worrying chance, but I think again, if it was a forward player, more of a forward-thinking player, of a wing-back sort of player who is directly linked up to Mbaizo in terms of going one-to-one in terms of matchups, I could understand it. But I think from having a centre-back bombing up the field and coming in from delayed late run, I think if you were to flip, I think a flipping sort of the table, or someone like Jack Elliott or Jackie Glesnes had made the similar run and they somehow delayed a run and went round the back and made the run, I think we'd all be applauding it, going, that's true. Absolutely sensational for them to have caught their defenders off guard. Or so then again, you sort of flip the table. But looking into this game this week, I don't know how you want to start this. Do you want to start with Ilsinho, or would you like to start with the press conference?
Yeah, let's do the Ilsinho first. It's a pretty quick one overall. We all knew he wasn't coming back this year, but officially Ilsinho has retired from the MLS and from, it seems, soccer in general. As you see my Skillsinho shirt, he's provided us with great memories. The Ilsinho game back way when he's obviously been a big contributor for this team's success in terms of the supporter shield. And even last year, I'm sure on the bench, unfortunately, he was injured for basically the entire season, but I'm sure he was a mentor to these younger players. So when you think of Ilsinho, you think of his big smile, you think of the energy, the lightheartedness, and the amazing footwork that he's been able to put together. So tomorrow, Saturday, they will be honoring him in some way. I don't know if he ever goes to the Ring of Honor. I doubt it. Maybe.
I think he probably will. I think there's popularity among the fans.
Popularity,
yeah. Gets him in.
No, I mean, let's be honest. For the I'm losing track of years now. The year before the Supporter Shield, I mean, he was instant offense, the super sub across the entire league. He was unstoppable. Of course, the league catches up to everybody, so he ended up not being as dangerous the following season. I know Fontana kind of stepped up in that big role for him off the bench, but I mean, you think of the Union, you think of top 10 favorite players for the fans, and Ilsinho is probably in a lot of people's lists. And he seems like a great guy. So I'm happy for him, happy for the retirement, and they will be honoring him tomorrow evening. So I'm excited to see what they do for him.
I think it'll be a nice sort of homecoming for him. Thank you for him. Everything he does, because again, last year he was injured so often, he barely played. And I think again, that was probably been his role anyway, because I think he really slid down the depth chart as the season went on anyway in terms of importance. And we saw that
Yep.
rise of McGlynn and Caxton and Quinn Sullivan. And personally, for myself, I never really got to. Again, I've been following the Union for 3 years now. I've watched occasional game, but I've never really been able to see Ilsinho in his absolute prime. Killing teams and things such as that. But not, again, I haven't really seen him be at his top game. I've seen him come on trying to be an impact sub, but perhaps not impacting the game as he should have. He scored a couple of goals when I've seen him play, but again, I think it probably is more fans like yourself and people have had on like Jose who would have seen the true Ilsinho and what he has brought to the Philadelphia Union during his time and tenure as a player. So, I mean,
Yep.
good for him. I think he deserves to have that welcome and that
Oh
send
yeah.
off.
Hmm.
And I think I'll bring up what Jim said about Ilsinho now because it's relevant to the conversation. He sort of said that Ilsinho had been around the camp this week and he was at training the other day and they sort of had 20, 25-minute chats. Jim and Ilsinho on the touchline as they were training, just speaking about life, having a nice catch up. And Jim's excited to see what he does next. So whether it's involved with the union or involved in the sport in general, from the indications of it, it sounds like Ilsinho is going to take a step back from the game for a little bit and just have a break before he goes back into things. And then afterwards, he gets back into the rhythm of things and back into the game. He's going to maybe become a scout, a coach, who knows? But Jim was sort of applauding just how big like his book of names is amongst the game in terms of players and coaches and
Hmm.
things such as that. So it's like he's not going to be short of options. He's not going to be short of contacts of what he can potentially do. But again, I think it was high praise, and again that sort of insight into like the contacts he has across the sport is a positive sort of look at the sort of player and reputation that Ilsinho had in the game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the stuff that we've been able to see him do with his feet and with the ball has been incredible.
Yeah,
And I mean that, like I said, if you go on Twitter, it's been being posted around all week. The Ilsinho game, he comes in, they're down to nothing, instant offense. He saves it's a Montero penalty kick that's missed. He comes
oh
running
yeah,
in, gets a goal. I mean, it was one of those moments that you'll just never forget, whether you were there or not. I mean, it's amazing. But
yeah,
on to this match against San Jose. Dave, as you know, I interviewed Jamin Moore a couple weeks ago. We talked about this match in particular.
yeah.
Our buddy Jamiro Montero, as who I just mentioned, will not be playing because of his red card in the previous match. But I mean, what are your thoughts, or what has Jim said in the press conference? I know you were on it today. So what did he kind of go into it at all about San Jose?
Um, I think Jim's comments were again they were typical Jim Curtin comments. So like they're a good team. We know they'll be dangerous. They'll cause us problems, and and he wants again they're a team that doesn't stop playing. I think we look at the first two San Jose games in the season. They've been difficult games for sure. I think again they lost 3-1 to the Red Bulls in their opening game of the season, which obviously isn't the way you want to open the year. They've also opened up with 2 home games. So they haven't actually played on the road yet. This is their first time on the road. But again, they drew 3-3 at the weekend, last weekend against Columbus, despite being down to 10 men after Jamiro got sent off. And Columbus took a 3-1 lead. They came back in the last 10 minutes with 2 goals from Francisco Calvo. So again, he's Calvo. Sorry, so he's going to be a player that we perhaps need to look out for. But against San Jose and no mugs, Jim was very complimentary of them, saying their team doesn't give up until like the last minute. Like they will continue trying to create chances. They'll continue trying to press open, like force that door open. But again, that can also work as a detriment to them because they keep trying to force that door open. They keep trying to score goals and create chances. You're going to leave yourself exposed at the other end, and that's sort of where this team can take advantage of. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Like I said, as I spoke with Jamin Moore, he mentioned that the Jamiro Montero signing raised the floor of the team. Of course, he's not going to be there this weekend, but
Nah,
with that said, there is expectations for San Jose to compete for at least a playoff spot in some way. I think that the franchise has had a busy offseason and they
yeah,
want to come back with a retooled roster and really give um, them a chance to at least hit that final spot. So the weather is also going to be difficult tomorrow. I mean, there's chances it's
nah.
going to be raining all day. There's going to be some
Oh,
chance of snow in certain parts of Pennsylvania.
okay.
Some people were worried that the game is going to get postponed till Sunday. I doubt
Oh,
that happens. It's going to be played tomorrow.
God.
So
Sounds like one of those horrific rainstorms that delayed the game last year. I think I
Yeah,
don't know what
DC
home
United.
game it
I
was.
was there that
DC
game.
United game where they delayed the game by like 3 hours and then played it like God knows when, like 6 o'clock, like 3 a.m. in the morning, wherever it was, and just played 3 minutes of stoppage time when they could have just finished the game early.
Mhm.
As long as nothing like that happens, I mean,
What, what's up, Adam? I see you comment. Thanks for chiming in. Yeah, so Dave, I think that's one of my biggest concerns is the weather, and I'm also going to kind of segue into the actually, before I get into the sports book side of things, anything else from the presser that you want to share about that Jim Curtin had to share?
I, it was quite a. How do I put it? It was quite a uneventful Jim Curtin press conference. Again, there wasn't much said. He said a couple of things about Mikelua, but again, it was just a general. He's a quick, complimentary things about Mikelua and what he brings to the team. Um, there wasn't really a lot that was said or um, that would make you sort of think, oh, okay, they're going to be a strong team or whatever.
Hmm.
Well, not a strong team. I don't know how to explain it. Like, don't doing there's going to be anything expected. There was no
Right.
sort of team news. I mean, Jim did highlight the Nathan Harriel thing, and it was sort of, obviously we bring Nathan in because Olivier wasn't playing well, but it's not just an indictment on Olivier, calling him out. It was a message to the whole team and sort of
Right.
saying, you don't step up, you don't play to your best, you will be dropped. But then he went on to also discuss how he doesn't like to change his back four much. So again, that was quite difficult for him. But I'm interested to see how much he follows through that approach because we've seen on a couple of times this year already that Jacob Glasner has had a few very sloppy moments in games where he's been very fortunate to not give up goals.
Yeah.
And I've been wondered whether he will be willing to pull that trigger and bring in Stuart Finley in for Jacob in the game or two and see how him and Jack Elliott play together because I think it'd be an interesting sort of partnership between the two. So again, I think that's an interesting thing that we will be looking out for in the future, whether Jim takes everything but seriously, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's a fine line that he's walking. And this is a dangerous, area for a coach to be in. You basically make an example of a player, which is what he did. I mean, Olivier got extended. He is the foreseeable right back for this team up until Nathan takes over. So
Yeah,
he basically set the precedent that it doesn't matter how much money you're making, doesn't matter if we extended you or not, doesn't matter if you're who you are, you will be benched if a benching is needed, which kind of puts into question last year with Ali Bedoya because I thought maybe that could have been called for, but I don't think he's going to bench the captain. But
no,
now I think you're spot on. Glessness, I love Jacob. Don't get me wrong. He does have a few moments where he's a bit careless. We saw it with the Matt Freese game, right? When he gives
yeah,
the bad pass behind him. He's had a couple Chesters that were a bit iffy to Blake that could have been done better. So he's had his moments where he's been iffy.
yeah,
But overall, Jacob is a crucial part of this team. I don't think he's going to pull the trigger unless it's something very glaring. And also with Jacob, is it's not consistent. There's many times where he plays great. Olivier, unfortunately, has these little bit of mental lapses too often, and I think that's the biggest issue. It's a reoccurring thing. At least Jacob overall has been a solid player
yeah.
from beginning to end.
No, but I was gonna say, I
Yeah,
sort of feel
go
like
ahead.
Jacob has been very fortunate that his mistakes haven't led to goals or big things
Spot on. Yep.
because I feel like if there were moments where the goals, if his moments of lapses of judgment or his mistakes have led to two goals, and again, I think we're in a very different conversation with Jackie Gladstone right now. So I think he's got very lucky
Hmm.
in that respect. But again, I think the importance of Jacob has to his team and the fan base, how much they love him. I
Yeah.
think that they love him more for what he's done on the attacking end. Like this might be an unpopular opinion. I feel like they love him and support him more for what he's done on the attacking end in terms of scoring long range screamers as opposed to what he offers defensively. I don't know if you'll agree with that or not. But that's sort of my opinion of him.
I agree. I think when you look at the two center backs, they are very much not opposites, but they kind of balance each other well.
Yeah,
Jack Elliott is much more of the defensive player. He has improved his offensive game. Jacob is much more of the offensive player with a stronger defensive game. So they balance each other well, which is why I said earlier in the season before the year kicked off is that if Jack Elliott becomes Jacob-esque in his offensive attack, oh my God, this team could be so dangerous in
yeah,
the attack. But yes, you're right, and that's that's Curtin's problem now to figure out. How long does he have leashes for certain players to bench them or to do that? But again, you know what? All the pressure is on Jim to win a championship this year. People are
No,
fed up
so
with not making it far enough, not getting the trophy. So I give him credit for doing a daring move and benching his starter, and
yeah,
and let's see how well Nathan does. And maybe this is Nathan's time to shine. Maybe he comes in there and finally
yeah,
takes it from Olivier,
no, so
and so be it. And guess what? If that's the case, and you have solid depth behind Nathan, and so be it.
yeah.
But yeah, go ahead on any other thoughts.
I mean, obviously, I was just looking through this sort of San Jose lineups that they've used over the last couple of games.
Hmm.
Jamira started up front in their first game of the year.
Hmm.
He actually started as their main striker.
Really? Wow, I
All
didn't know
this is
that.
like one of the most advanced players. So again, I mean, that's an interesting sort of way. Perhaps they're playing and how they approach games. Maybe they play with a false 10, maybe. Again, that'd be an interesting thing to look at because, again, he's out injured. No, he's out suspended. Sorry, now injured.
Suspended.
Out
Yeah,
suspended. So,
yeah. I guess we'll have
yeah,
to see what they do. But okay, so I'm gonna segue into the next part of things as we wrap up the show within the next 5 or 10 minutes. So, Dave, of course, we love gambling. We always talk about what's the sports books have to offer. I'm a bit surprised with this line. I really am. Philadelphia Union at home are minus 220 on the money line, plus 500 for San Jose on the away money line, and then a
yeah,
draw is plus 310.
yeah,
The over under on the goals looks like it's hovering around 2.5 goals as the more popular bet. The over under for 2.5 goals is minus 120. I, I don't know. This one feels kind of weird. This is one game that, and I want to give you more so just not even from a soccer perspective, from a gambling perspective. You have a lot of elements with the outdoors that are going to cause, or a lot of variables with the outdoors that may push this game in a different direction.
yeah,
I would watch the weather all morning, see how the field is, see how the players are during warmups. If you're at the stadium, if you're watching the game beforehand, the pregame, see this game. I think there is some value on the draw at plus 310 because of the conditions. You don't know if maybe the Union aren't going to be able to get any good shots on net,
no,
or it could be a shootout and it could be a 2-2 affair. I mean, I might do a bit on the plus 310 with an over under 1.5 and see what that gives me. But the Union favored minus 220 this early on in the season when they haven't won a game yet, or when they haven't won a home game yet, gives me some concern.
yeah. I think
But oh yeah,
potential
go ahead.
trap game.
Yes, because you have NYCFC
Yeah.
next too.
However, I think the stature of San Jose in comparison to Philadelphia and again the travel and where the games are, etc. I think that's sort of where perhaps the Union come in as big favourites because again they are on paper they're probably a much stronger team than San Jose. They've got a better reputation in comparison to San Jose. So
Yep.
again, I think that might be where it comes from.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's like the same thing with baseball. The Yankees and the Dodgers always get these massive money lines, even though they don't deserve it sometimes, because
Yeah,
they are the Yankees and the Dodgers, and the books know that they're going to bet them regardless. So I get it. I mean, I understand why they're making it. It's just a little high. I would not put the juice down for the Union money line at all, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of the goal scores, can I just say last week I said 2-1 as the winner, I believe, maybe, and I think I got it. So I'm just gonna
I think
put
so. Yeah,
myself out there. If that's the case, I'll correct myself later if I when I watch the old replay. But the most likely goal scorer is Sergio Santos. I'm sorry, read the wrong line. The anytime goal scorer for most likely goal scorer is Mikael Ua plus 165, Corey Burke plus 165, Santos the same line, Quinn Sullivan 220, Paxton 220. You got a lot of Union players at the top of this table. The first San Jose player doesn't hit it till 2, 4, 6, 7, 8th. No, ninth person on this list is Jeremy Ibobise plus 410. Brandon Craig has
yeah.
a more likely chance to
Brandon
score according
Craig,
to according to FanDuel
crikey.
over Jeremy. So
Yeah,
if you're looking to bet this game, I think the Mika Ua plus 165 is a solid bet. He
that's
looks
the big line.
dangerous.
Yeah.
It's a big line. But on to you. What is the formation looking like for you? Who do you think makes a starting 11?
I think he'll probably make one change to the team that won last Saturday. He'll probably be Uar in for Carranza, and he'll
Yep.
try and burn San Jose for the pay for that, but with their pace and their very quick attacking line. And again, I'm hopeful that we see a lot from players like Daniel Garsdag, And I thought Liam Flack did alright in the game against
Yeah.
Montreal. He got stuck in. Ali Bedoya again offered some stuff in attacking position. So again, I think if the Union can win the game, and I'm sorry, just looking through the sportsbook here in the UK, I want to say who's the most likely goal scorer here. Corey Burke, Sergio Santos, and Mikel Ua are all joint favourites to be the
Yep.
first goal scorers in the game. And then for them, it's Javier Lopez in the UK and Benji Kikanovic are their sort of main players. But again, they're not, they're less. Jesus Bueno is more likely to score according to the bookmakers than either of the favourite San Jose players. So again, the bookmakers are very, very, very much favouring the Union, and they're very, very much believing that they're going to potentially run riot or cause a rout on their opponents tomorrow night. Which again, you don't want to get too far ahead yourself. You want to acknowledge it'll be a tough test because every single game is always a bit of a tough test, especially in the early part of the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The books are smarter than we are, so they
Yeah,
might know something we do. Maybe they're trying to get the people to bet against San Jose. They kind of profit that way.
yeah,
Just an interesting. It's a very very heavy Union lineup that we're seeing on the sports books, which sometimes makes me nervous. Like for example, Duke against Syracuse. Syracuse is their best player for suspension, and literally everyone and their mothers is on Duke at the spread. It was -11. The line opened up. It closed like -15.5, and Syracuse covered no problem. So it's
yeah.
one of those things where when everybody bets it, sometimes you have to be careful. Don't just go with
Yeah,
the crowd. Um,
cover.
yeah,
Providing
exactly.
cover better.
Yeah, if anything, you'll look smart if you take the underdog and they end up covering. But
Yeah,
in terms of the formation, I agree with you. I think you're going to see Burke and Mikael. I think for the rest of the season, it's going to be Carranza and Burke kind of going battling for that second starter position. I think Santos is on the bench for good. I think that's where he's best suited. I think health wise, I think he will stay healthier longer if he's off the bench. And honestly, having that replacement of speed and power um, at the 60th minute, at the 65th minute is so important when these teams are tired and coming down the stretch of a game. So I think I like the lineup that you're putting down. And yeah, I mean, who do you think? I asked you this last week too. Prediction of the score. Who do you think scores, and who do you want to see have their best performance, or who are you looking to watch tomorrow?
I'm going confident here, and it might come back to bite me, but I think 3-0 Union. I think Uar grabs a brace on his Union debut.
What? Okay, Dave. All right, I like it. Go ahead, keep going.
I don't know, it's just the sort of game that
I
Union
love it.
sort of break out in and pull off a big win. I think we saw it last year against their only Western Conference home game. I think that's Portland. They end up arguably having their most convincing win of the year and like a 3 or 4-0 win. I think they could do the same tomorrow against a much weaker opponent than Portland. Again, they're still going to be a difficult task. They're a difficult team to play against. But if you look at the record they've had defensively this year, they conceded 3 goals at home in both of their games. Who's to say their fortunes are going to be better on the road against arguably a much better team than the Red Bulls and Columbus Crew? So I got confidence that the Union could go in there and
Dave, I like it. You want to hear the
comfortably win.
line? You want to hear the line on that number? If the Union score a correct score of 3-0, and if Mikael Ua scores 2 or more goals, it is a plus 8,669, which means a $2 bet will get you $173. So if you're feeling lucky tomorrow, I'm placing the bet.
Yeah.
I'm going with Dave Miller's bet of the night. That's it. The lock of the week is.
Do not take my gambling advice.
I'm doing it. That's what's fun. That's a good thing. I bet
Yeah.
on every Union game, so please don't take my bets completely seriously. But no,
There's
I,
a
I
lot of
agree.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
no,
of bias involved.
yes, exactly. There's all bias. I just like having fun in these games.
Yeah.
No, I think you want to see a 2-0 win, a 3-0 win. I want to see a shutout. I want to see a big win. The elements worry me that some sort of freak goal is going to happen because it can
Yeah.
happen. Happened last week. It happens all the time. It's soccer. We expect that. But yeah, I want to see a big win. I know you're
Yeah.
saying with 2 goals. I think he gets at least 1 goal. And I honestly, I want to see Gazdag get another. I want to see him get on a little bit of a run and put it together.
Yeah.
And with the player that I'm focusing on the most tomorrow is Jose Martinez. I know everybody's going to be talking about Nathan Harriel and Leon Flock, but I want to see Jose do what he did against Minnesota again. I want to
Cause
see that
absolute
same.
issues.
I want to see that energy. I want to see that chaos, especially on a sloppy field. I want to see him wreak havoc all day long. I think Jose Martinez could be the Union's most important player by the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's how good he looked against Minnesota. So I'll go 2-0, a little bit more modest than my buddy Dave.
Yeah.
I'll go Mikael Ua 1 goal, and I'll go with Daniel Gaz that gets his
Mm.
second goal of the season. But any other thoughts, Dave, before we kind of
Um,
close it up?
no, that's it from me. I think we covered sort of all bases. I think we both got a not a massive, we're not massively confident, overly confident. I think we're both confident in what the Union can pull off tomorrow, and I think we're both hoping that they can reward our confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I think the fans should be confident. You're at home against an inferior opponent. You want to see a good outing. Even against the elements, you want to see them to go out there and take care of business. If you want to bet my bet, a 2-0 correct score, Mikael Ua and Daniel Gazdag plus 10,458, a $2 bet will give you $209. Quite a lovely dinner out with you and your significant other if you choose to. So I want to do it as well. Might as well have some fun with this and hope we win some big money. But anyway, yeah, I'm confident, and we're gonna wrap the show up.
Yeah,
So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, 7:30. Dave, I'm sorry,
yeah, 7:30.
7:30 tomorrow night. The Union hosts San Jose Earthquakes at 7:30 p.m. at Chester. It's gonna be a sloppy one, so dress warm, dress comfy. If you're going there, I will be on the match tomorrow night with the Twitter live feed, Emberrera1323 right here. Dave Miller will also be. Are you gonna be watching the game, Dave? I know it's late for you.
Yeah, I'll be watching the game now.
Okay. So
So
Dave will be jumping in, and then after the game press conference again, Dave GFC Miller. I suck with these arrow pointing, and then
yeah, it's
my
difficult, isn't
below,
it?
and then yeah. So
Yeah, so
tomorrow night, follow us on Twitter, and go Union.
go Union, dude.